James Harden is the MVP this year, and he wins this race strides ahead of the competition. I'm not a fan of Harden's game, but in my opinion, he clearly deserves the award. Here's why. What's up everyone, Nati Dambasa here and welcome to another video. If you're new to my channel, I put out content where I talk about the NBA in general, break down certain players and teams, and make ultimate breakdowns. In these ultimate breakdowns, I'll break down the player's move, explain what players will do to enhance the move, and perform it myself to make it easier to visualize. Based off of your playstyle, I'll recommend whether this move is worth implementing into your game, and in what situations this move should be used in. Just a quick note, I'll have a lot of statistics in this video to explain why I think Harden is the MVP, but don't worry, I'll be sure to explain everything to help you understand what it means and how important it is in determining the actual impact of a player. Alright, so there are some special considerations in this MVP conversation this year, including guys like Nikola Jokic, Kawhi Leonard, and Joel Embiid, but most people agree that this MVP race is centered around three players: James Harden, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Paul George. These players have all had incredible seasons and have stood out in different ways to make their case. James Harden is scoring the most points per game since Michael Jordan did over 30 years ago, averaging over 36 points per game, along with 6.5 rebounds, 7.7 assists, and 2.2 steals, ranking tied for 7th in the NBA in assists and 2nd in steals. Giannis is averaging 27.5 points per game, ranking tied for 4th, 12.7 rebounds, which ranks 5th, and 6 assists, which is tied for 18th, with 1.3 steals and 1.4 blocks per game, all while shooting 58% from the field. He ranks 10th in the league in this stat, which is an incredible accomplishment considering his role on the team as the main offensive weapon. Paul George is cementing himself as one of the best two-way players of this era, averaging 28 points per game, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists with 2.2 steals per game, ranking 2nd in points and 1st in steals. Also, all of their teams are doing relatively well, with Giannis's Bucks being 1st in the East, Harden's Rockets being 3rd in the West, and George's Thunder being 6th in the West. These statistics can be a bit overwhelming, but they just serve to show how these three players are excelling in numerous ways to help their team succeed. To explain why I think Harden deserves MVP, we first need to analyze what the award itself means. MVP stands for Most Valuable Player, so the MVP should be the player that's been the most important to their team that year. One way to assume this is to theorize how the team would be if each of the MVP candidates were gone. Not having Giannis on the Bucks would hurt their standings for sure, but under a great coach in Mike Budenholzer and other great players including All-Star Chris Middleton, Eric Bledsoe, Malcolm Brogdon, Brook Lopez, and others, the Bucks would most likely end up in the 5th seed at the minimum. Paul George is great for OKC, but they were in the 6th seed 2 years ago, and this is without PG and some key role players like Dennis Schroeder, Nerlens Noel, Markieff Morris, and Terrence Ferguson. Remove James Harden from the Rockets, however, and there's absolutely no way that Houston makes it into the playoffs. Houston has had a chaotic season with injuries and with their play in general, at one point being 14th seed in the West and suffering injuries with Chris Paul missing 23 games, Clint Capella missing 15, and Eric Gordon missing 13. And at one point, all of them were injured at the same time. During these stretches of games, Harden has produced an incredible stat line of scoring more than 30 points in 32 straight games, a feat that's only second to Wilt Chamberlain. Harden is also the first player since MJ to score at least 30 points versus all other NBA teams. His insane yet somehow consistent scoring and playmaking ability is the most important reason that Houston is in the 3rd seed. We can also analyze additional stats of James Harden to further show how much Harden does for his team and how crucial he is for them to succeed. There's this post on Reddit by a person named LOLZ14. I'll put a link of the post down in the description. And he made numerous charts of stats obtained from stats.nba.com and basketball-reference.com, both of which are credible sources. He obtained data in different categories and shows how Harden compares to other NBA stars and the league in general. Now, stats in general don't tell the whole story, but when you obtain stats in different categories and analyze them together, you can get a pretty good picture on the impact of a player. The first couple of graphs that we'll analyze will show how much of Harden's points are unassisted. The first graph shows the number of unassisted versus assisted field goals made since 1999-2000 season before the All-Star break. James Harden has scored over 500 unassisted field goals made and roughly 75 assisted field goals made. It's important to understand that Harden's values are compared to other top 10 NBA scorers in the league over the past 19 years, making the data even more extreme. The second graph is identical to the first, except it's for 3-point field goals made. Again, Harden ranks first in unassisted 3-point field goals made, this time by a margin of over 100 to any other player not named Harden. We can also see that he ranks one of the lowest in assisted 3-point field goals made as well. What we have witnessed when watching him play, but can also see in these charts, is that Harden has to do an incredible amount of work for the offense. Not only getting these shots up mostly on his own, but making these shots as well, which we can see as he's an outlier even in comparison to NBA stars. The next graphs compare the number of dribbles a player takes for every touch and compares it to the amount of points scored per touch. Here Harden ranks third in most dribbles per touch, second behind DJ Augustine and Tony Parker, and is one of the most efficient players in the league as well, ranking in the top 10 in points per touch. An interesting thing to note here is that another MVP candidate, Paul George, is an outlier as well, but for his efficiency rather than just touches. While only needing 2.5 dribbles per touch, he's able to score just over 0.5 points per touch. I don't want to get too off topic here, but this is one of the main reasons for him being an MVP candidate, as he can coexist with another star like Russell Westbrook, not needing a lot of touches to produce at an incredibly high level. The next chart is something that we can quickly gloss over in that it only shows Harden's shot chart. He is known to shoot a lot of three-pointers and layups, which the graphs prove, and shoots these shots at a pretty good percentage, only dipping to below the league average from the three-pointer at the left corner, which he doesn't take a lot of. The next chart is similar to the one before it, yet it's for step-back shots, which accounts for around 1/3 of Harden's shots. This is the shot that he shoots a lot of from three, and he shoots above average or average from all the spots. This shot, however, isn't one that he takes a lot from the mid-range, which is good as his percentages are relatively poor from that spot. To better understand how many step-backs Harden takes, the chart below it compares the number of threes made with that shooter's percentage. Incredibly, Harden ranks 9th in the league in three-pointers taken from the step-back alone when compared to other players' total three-pointers taken. He shoots his shot efficiently as well, shooting above 40%. The rest of the graphs we'll simply gloss over, but the first one shows how Harden has the highest usage rate, which is the percentage of team plays used by a player in the league, yet still has a high shooting percentage, which is the efficiency at shooting the ball. The next chart compares the same data, but over the top 100 scores in the past 40 years, where Harden still stands out for his extremely high usage rate and good true shooting percentage. The other graphs show in what spot the top NBA players and the Rockets players score in different situations, showing where Harden gets his assists to different players. Harden's also second in minutes per game, third in player efficiency rating, which measures the player's per minute performance, first in value over replacement, which is kind of complicated but basically means what percentage of a team's points are contributed to by that player, and a whole bunch of other stats like field goals attempted, three-pointers made, dribbles, percentage of field goals made unassisted, turnovers, and others. What all of these stats convey is that despite being extremely important for his team and having to have the ball in his hands for most of the time, he has been able to deliver and be efficient with his scoring and playmaking. Harden's play this year isn't something that I enjoy watching, but there's no denying that what he does is beyond phenomenal. Because of this, it's impossible for me to put any player over Harden for MVP. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. I understand that Harden's playstyle is hard to implement into your game because of how ball dominant he is. Because of this, I decided to make one of my later videos be a breakdown of Harden's game and show what he does and whether you should or should not implement this into your own game. Have a great rest of your day, and peace.